you can ask, some of the other athletes that were there. 2 of them were doctors, and I remember them watching me thinking, we might need to step in and stop him because he looks awful. Like he's getting green and gray in the face.
Wow. Welcome to the Unbroken Podcast with Chris Crosby. Today we have guest Dylan Harris, a good friend of mine. I've been working with him for, I'd say, 6 or 7 months, on and off a little bit, and I'm just really excited to have him on today because he's a big resource for me and has really helped me with my weight loss. I've been doing it alone for so long, but when I started working with Dylan, he really helped step up my game in my weight loss world. But tell a little bit about Dylan. From what I know, and I'll let him fill in the gaps, but Dylan has his own company called Fit Status, and he helps people with all aspects of fitness, if it's weight loss or even gaining size for bodybuilding and just overall strength. What other stuff do you do with your?
I kind of work with a little bit of everybody. I work with your general population, your moms and dads. I work with some of their kids in sports. I work with the bodybuilders, the CrossFitters, powerlifters. You name it. I've kind of got a passion for all things fitness related. So I try to get a little bit of piece of all of that. It keeps things interesting for me. I don't want to get too burned out in one particular area.
No, you don't want to be pigeonholed or anywhere. Or
exactly.
Like that.
Yeah.
Well, how I got to know Dylan is I used to do this 5K Tuesday where me and one of my friends, Tia, we would jump on a rower and do a 5K. And she was just like, "Hey, I started working with this guy named Dylan. Helped me lose some weight." And at this point, I was just I tried working with a couple other people and I was hitting a dead end until I shot him an email. She gave me his information and I was like, "Hey," and he sent me some information and filled it out, and we started rolling, and the weight started coming up pretty quick. And so since then I'm just like, "Hey, this Dylan," I tell everybody about Dylan. I'm just like, "Hey guys, you need to talk to Dylan and Dylan this." And so I think we had at one point 5 people from our box.
Yeah, I think I've had a good probably 10 people referred to me from you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, it's helped awesome. Me so much. And so, so now you talked about you helping with CrossFitters a little bit. Yep. And so that's the world I'm in. And I've been not sending you this email several times just because it's my own fear. But I've always, when I was in high school, I was like, what if I did a bodybuilding competition? Yeah. Or even something like that. And it scared me just because I've always been heavy. But so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that.
I'd love to.
But CrossFit. So I read one of your blogs when I was first trying to search you out about CrossFit and your thoughts on CrossFit. Because a lot of people in the fitness company that aren't in CrossFit, it's like, forget CrossFit. That's just it's
break
noise.
My shoulders.
Yeah, and you're gonna hurt your shoulders. You're gonna blow your knees out.
Yeah, whatever.
And so I read this blog post how you got involved and how you were just you were in that camp. You're like, it's a fad. I don't like it.
Absolutely. I was completely anti CrossFit at first. I was a bro bodybuilder, and CrossFit was new to me, and it was a little bit of a threat to me at the same time because at the time I was only working with bodybuilders and people seeking just body composition goals. Mm-hmm. That I started to hear of all these people doing CrossFit and all this stuff, and I was like, oh well, if it's not the way I'm doing things, it's got to be the wrong way. And it was completely foreign to me because I had only been living in Springfield for a year, and back where I'm from, there was nothing related to CrossFit. And so whenever it came time to do my internship, I was trying to go through, what are the things that I could do my internship with that would benefit me that I haven't already had experience with. I'd done bodybuilding. I played college baseball, played plenty of football in high school.
So you've been around the block.
Yeah. I've been through physical therapy. I tore my shoulder in the past. I've been through just about everything, but the one thing I hadn't done was CrossFit. And I thought, okay, well, man, that's a really expensive membership to try to do and, maybe not enjoy it or something. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do an internship there. I'm going to go there. I'm going to get a piece of it. But if, I don't like it, I learn from it. But it didn't cost me anything or something like that. I mean, it was kind of a loophole I found to kind of give it a shot.
Yeah, jump into that world.
Yeah, and it didn't take long. I mean, my first day there at CrossFit RTB.
RTB, yeah, good gym.
Oh, absolutely. My first day there, I got into the kind of a heated battle with a guy I never knew him. But he kind of stood out as the guy I wanted to chase. Yeah. And so I did. I got in that chase and immediately had that competitiveness that I hadn't experienced since playing college baseball, which was almost 3 years, before I tried out CrossFit. And so it was an immediate, just passion for it. I was like, oh, I love this. I like the, that drive and that
timer, that 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, man, just that competitive nature again. It felt good to have it again because the bodybuilding, it filled that void for a little bit for me,
right?
But still not to the extent because if somebody beat me at something, it was purely based on judgment,
right?
So you could always go back and go, you always got your friends saying, oh, well, you were better or this and that. But there's not any hard proof that.
Yeah, how measurable is it?
Yeah, exactly. So, it never completely filled that void. So with CrossFit, if somebody beats me, pat on the back, you say, yeah,
you got me.
You got me. I have something to work on. So, it's kind of where I've been putting my heart for the past couple of years now.
Yeah, and one of the cool things that I read in that blog post too is like when you went in there, you're just like, okay, they actually have structures. Some of the programming, every box might not have that, but the RTB, I guess you said you went in there, you saw people on squat cycles.
Yeah.
And,
and there was an entirely separate whiteboard that was completely separate from the daily WODs that was designated for your competitors or your folks on a strength cycle. You got your squats, deadlifts, bench, overhead press or something. You had your cycles for Olympic lifting. You had gymnastic specific work. So there was definitely some structure there, which was great to see. It was, again, it exceeded my expectations by a lot. And again, that's, maybe I lucked out with a really good gym at first. I don't know. Yeah. But that quickly rolls out that they're not all bad. Yeah. Okay. And honestly, I've been to several now, and there's been definitely more good than bad. I have actually not attended one yet that I wasn't pretty happy with what I was seeing at the gym. Everybody was ready to learn, and all the coaches were always very involved with each of the athletes, whether there was 30 people in the class or 3 people in the class. Yeah.
Now, when you started telling your friends in your bodybuilding world that you're enjoying CrossFit, how much crap did they give you? Still give you?
I still get a little bit from some guys. If you follow me on Facebook and you scroll through my comments of anything or the posts that I do of anything CrossFit related, I'm going to give a little plug here for Levi Cottrell. You'll see him giving me a hard time about CrossFit all the time and how I've left my bro ways. That's not 100% true. I still got a lot of bro
out.
Oh yeah. But no, a lot of guys were, it was about 50-50. I had folks that were intrigued by it and was like, hey, I might give that a try because, at first they were a little weary about it, but after they seen that, I wasn't shriveling up like a prune, wasn't losing all the size, and that I was still getting stronger and everything, they were a little intrigued that, hey, this isn't going to hurt my gains or whatever.
Yeah.
So I've actually had several friends that have now ventured out and they mix it into their bodybuilding routine.
Throw a Metcon in there or something.
Yeah, just something for, for a little mental toughness, a little test there, or a little in place of some of their cardio or conditioning.
Yeah.
So it can definitely be implemented for the physique sports as well.
I watched a YouTube video, Dan Bailey. She did Grace.
Yeah.
And with her boyfriend, husband,
husband.
And he did it in like he did it fast. I mean, he's just no technique, just ripped it and gripped it and flew through it. And Dan Bailey she did it a little over 3 minutes. And they were just like, they couldn't see straight when they were done. Yeah. They were just laying on the ground. They were, just like, holy cow, what did we just do? And they're like, we might need to do this more often. And they're like, all right, now let's go work back. It was pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, it'll definitely reveal some holes in your fitness. And that's just up to you to decide if that bothers you or not. Yeah. I don't personally think that everybody has to be super complete in every area, especially depending on what your sport is or your goal. Stay specific to your sport. Right. A guy like me, I've always been pretty good at about anything that I try. Not necessarily been the best at anything. So CrossFit kind of fell into my wheelhouse a little bit. That I've always been a little bit strong, a little bit fast, a little bit endurance, this and that, and so. It kind of came naturally to pick it up and kind of fall right there in the middle of the pack. And, with CrossFit, that's kind of what you need. Yeah. And so, yeah, if you want to fill those holes in your fitness, I think CrossFit's
the way to go.
Yeah. It's definitely the method is true to what it's trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit. So what made you decide now you played baseball in college.
Correct. Yeah.
Where'd you play baseball?
Played baseball for 2 years at a junior college, Mineral Area College. It's up about an hour south of St. Louis.
Right on.
I went there straight out of high school on a scholarship. And my roommate my freshman year was big into bodybuilding. Okay. Going into college, I only went into the weight room if my coach told me to go. It wasn't something that I went to for fun.
You didn't seek it out.
Right. And my roommate was looking for somebody to go just hit the weights with him because he was into, the bodybuilding. And I was like, okay, sure, yeah, I'll go. And so we started going regularly. And, a couple months into that, I'm starting to really see some differences in my body composition.
Your body's reacting.
Yeah. And, I'm at that age. I'm 18, 19 in college. I'm like, heck yeah, body composition.
Ladies.
Exactly. So it was really kind of, I don't know, looking back, I'm still happy that it happened, but it took my focus away from baseball. Okay. And that's why I ended up hanging it up my second year was that, I could go up to the plate and, I could strike out and it didn't bother me anymore. In the past, it'd be like, okay, I got to get up there and get them next time. Yeah. But I had all I could think about was when am I going to get my chest workout in? Yeah. Or whatever. And so whenever the passion wasn't there anymore, I was like, it's time to hang it up.
And your passion became bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And so when you went into school originally, was your fitness, like being a trainer, was that originally your plan?
It wasn't to be a trainer, but it was still in the same field. I was originally going to go into physical therapy. Okay. And just as I've had experience with fitness and everything, I've just decided I wanted to stay on the other side of medicine and work more on the prevention and more on the performance side, not necessarily working with people after an issue or helping them to bounce back. So I've just decided to just, stay on this side of the.
So when you decided, bodybuilding is your thing, like how far did you run with it? I know that you'd done it, but I don't know.
Honestly, I didn't put everything into it that I could have. Mm-hmm. Again, the number one driver for me for the first 2 years of bodybuilding was purely for looks. I mean, like for other people to look at me, and particularly women, and be like, "Oh man, that's awesome," or that's sexy or something. I wasn't driven for the competition. It was almost Jersey Shore-ish, I guess. You could kind of
feel my arms. And
it was. It was pretty selfish. And so, by the time I did really start kind of taking it serious as far as want to do a competition and whatnot, that lasted about a year. And again, I finally did a competition and everything, and it was fun. I enjoyed it, but it's not a process I necessarily want to have to go through again. I like to eat.
Yeah, I heard I spend way too much time on YouTube, and I stalk people like Dan Bailey and stuff like that, just because it just fascinates me, people that can discipline themselves at that level. I mean, she basically is like, when it's time to prep or she locks herself basically in an apartment and she doesn't leave except to work out.
Yeah.
Because she just tells her family, hey, I know it's Christmas, but if I go over there, I'm going to shove cookies in my face nonstop. And I can't, because that'll put me back so far. And I don't, and I know that we've talked about that. Like, that's almost not healthy. Like, fitness is a balance, right?
Yeah, there is a balance. And bodybuilding is not all unhealthy. There is some, there's nothing healthy about the extremes that some people have to go, but not everybody also has to get to that point. If you've done a really good job of your taking care of your off season and staying within a decent body fat range and working on getting your calories high and whatnot, the process in itself, is not as unhealthy as some people will make it out to be.
Right.
The problem is a lot of people let themselves get too out of shape in the off season, or they don't really, take care of their calories in the off season. And then they decide 12 weeks out from a competition, hey, I'm going to get on stage, and they end up crash dieting and throwing in tons of cardio. And so then, it becomes a really unhealthy thing.
It's just a yo-yo.
Yeah, it is. It is. And there's been a lot of, discussion in the last year about the unhealthy relationships that people develop with their body image or with food and whatnot. And that is definitely, it's a real thing. It took me, probably close to 2 years to really get to the point where, I didn't feel like I had to be shredded to take my shirt off in public.
Right.
It was, there was a time where, if I was sitting at 10 or 12% body fat, I thought I was fat.
Which is crazy for me to think about, because like has been heavy my whole life. Like, probably at your 10 or 12%, I would dream that would be like almost goal size for someone like me.
Yeah, it always made me feel pretty selfish or something, because I could make comments about, feeling out of shape or fat or not want to take my shirt off or something. And, you hear other people go, say to you, oh man, dude, if I had your body or this and that. And whenever I hear somebody say that back to me, I'm like, oh man, how selfish am I being right now? But it was a real thing that was going through my mind.
Oh yeah, how you wanted to look, and that didn't take. Yeah, I mean that was real to you. And I've watched different videos or talked to different people, and they're just like at that weight, and they're just like, I just feel so fat right now. Like, there was one girl that I used to be in a running club with that she stopped running a lot to focus more on her bodybuilding. And I remember she came to an event and she was just smoking. She was hot, and I was just. And then she's like, "I am so fat right now," and I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me! You're like, you're aces." But but that was real in her head.
Yeah. You set your standards up. You reach a certain body composition, and because of the media and because of magazines and these YouTube channels and everything, you only see people at their best. Yeah. You don't get to see them the other, 11 months of the year or whatever. And so you've finally reached that body composition. You think, I'm there. Yeah. But then it's not sustainable for most people.
Yeah. There's very few people that can do that.
Yeah. And it does. It eats you up. There are plenty of people that can maintain that pretty closely, but those are also the people that are, genetically gifted, have been on the leaner side their whole life, or they're just extremely disciplined as is, and it's not to a point that it bothers them to be that disciplined and whatnot. So, it's just the sustainability of it is it's tough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like it's still that mindset, because even now with me being 95 pounds down, depending if I'm really good that week, and we can talk about that here in a second, but me being 95, people come up and they're just like, you look amazing. And I know what I should say is thank you. Because, I mean, from where I was, I way better. Yeah. But for me, I'm not where I want to be. And so I always downplay it. And it ticks my wife off, because someone will come up and be like, Chris, holy cow, I saw a picture of you and you weighed 348 pounds. And look at you now. You are looking great. And I'm just like, well, I'm not there yet. I'm still going. And so if anyone hears me say that, go ahead and hit me in the arm now, because I'm trying to work on it. But I mean, it's just the way you picture yourself. You have this perfect image. I mean, I have a picture on my phone. I don't even know the guy. I was just scanning through Facebook, and there was this dude just his shirt was on. He was just standing there, just smiling. And I'm like, that's what I want to look like. And I don't know if I ever will, but that's how I want to.
Yeah, that's human nature to always want what we don't have. And then once we get there, for some reason, we end up wanting something else or wanting more.
Isn't that funny?
It is. It's a vicious cycle. So you know, the more content you can come with, you know, being yourself. That doesn't mean let yourself go,
right?
But always being happy with where you are, but always still setting goals and trying to.
Don't settle for the dad bod.
Yeah, don't settle for dad bod. I can't talk about dad bods. I don't have kids, so.
Not yet, right?
Right. I can't. I don't know that struggle yet.
Well, let's talk about you working with your clients. Okay. And I full disclosure, I am one. I kind of covered that at the beginning. I work with Dylan, and when someone approaches you and wants to work with you, what's kind of your approach to them?
Yeah. So you know, I get several inquiries a week, and most of them it's real simply I'd be glad to help you out. I quickly I don't even usually ask their goals or whatnot. I get their email, I get their questionnaire, get it going. Occasionally I have some folks that want to come in for a real personal consultation and whatnot, and we'll sit down and we'll speak for an hour, and because for some people this is a super personal issue, or you know, something they're real passionate about or whatnot. But yeah, it's usually just as simple as fill out this 2-page questionnaire that gives me all the information I need. If there's anything else I need from this person, you know, I reach out to them, but it's usually that simple to get going. Yeah.
And is it normally weight loss?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 95% of my clients are seeking weight loss. And that's whether it's 10 pounds or 100 pounds.
Okay.
Just about everybody is wanting to drop the body fat, which when anybody thinks about nutrition or exercise, that is the association that people have with it. Is the only reason to watch what you eat is to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
It's not to worry about your heart health or nothing. Same thing with exercise. You know, people only exercise for weight loss. Very few people are doing it anymore for performance or heart health, which, you know, let's go back to CrossFit. That's where CrossFit's done a great job in the exercise and fitness world. Is they've helped get people back on track with doing it for performance reasons or for more of the health benefits, not necessarily just the scale and the body composition. They definitely go hand in hand, but they've shifted the focus a little bit. Which I think is a fantastic. Yeah,
you have moms approach. In working on their clean and jerk and their snatch. You know? I did HOA this year. You guys did HOA. But we have one of the people on my team. Her name is Teresa. I'm not going to say her age, but she probably could have been on a master's team. Yeah. But it's awesome having her in like a barbell class with me, like working on her snatch technique. You know, it's like, and she'll even tell you, she's like, a year ago I would have never done this. She does Zumba. That's what she did before that, but she definitely saw the difference.
There's a lot of respect I have for the sport and just getting people to respect the barbell again. Yeah. There's, you know, the barbell goes a long way. It's, you know, it's been there from in the beginning and it's going to be there forever. You can make all this other fancy equipment that you want. Yeah. But the barbell is still going to reign king in my opinion. Yeah. And that's finally surfacing again, where people are looking forward to calluses on their hands and getting in the chalk bucket.
Yeah, those that's badges fun. Of honor.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when someone signs up for some weight loss approach, do you normally have a set way? If it's 10 pounds or 100 pounds, like, do you base like the diet that you set up for them, or based on like that? I know you don't have any cut or paste plans, because that's something you've told me. But how do you approach like planning a diet for those people? Yeah,
so on the questionnaire, you'll notice I'll ask people, you know, what diet plans or nutrition approaches have you taken in the past? Tell me which ones were successful, which ones were not. Yeah. Which ones could you sustain, you know, stay on longer, or which one, you know, were you desperate to get off of after a week?
Yeah, you just hated it.
Yeah. And then I'll have a section where I ask them, I'll say, list me your top 3 favorite protein sources, carb sources, fruits, fats, whatever. And then I'll also have a section where I say, are there any foods you absolutely just will not eat? Yeah. And are there any foods that you just have to have in your diet?
Yeah. I think mushrooms was on my can't eat list.
Yeah. And so, if somebody gets on there, I'm a big fan of, I like oatmeal. But if somebody gets on there and they say, I'm not going to eat oatmeal, then I'm not going to program it into their nutrition plan. It doesn't have to be the old chicken, rice, and broccoli. I try to really be flexible with people. And I'll ask them, how many meals per day do you prefer? Yeah. I don't. 6 meals seems to be good for a lot of people, but I'll be honest with you, I very rarely write a plan that's 6 meals because very few people actually want that. The most popular number I see is 4 to 5 meals a day.
Yeah, I'm on 5, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I write it for, I had a guy this weekend that I wrote a plan for. He's a doctor, works a really crazy schedule. So he's doing 3 meals now.
Because that's when he can eat.
Yeah, that's what he prefers. That's what he's been doing. So now we're just going to dial in what he's eating at those 3 meals.
That's cool.
For me personally, I wouldn't want to do 3 meals.
I'm hungry by 10 if I eat it after my breakfast.
But that doesn't make it right or wrong by any means.
Yeah.
So I use that questionnaire, and I really try to program around people's daily schedules, their preferences. If they have some sort of a preference that's just 100% bad habit, then I'll try to teach them how to use this in moderation or
I eat a sleeve of Oreos every night, Dylan. I need that.
Yeah. And if I see that, or I sense that there might be a trigger food, somebody might say, I have to have this ice cream every night. I might, that it might be a bad idea to say, okay, well, let's just portion control that, and let's just have a half cup of ice cream, because that's generally the serving size on the label.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to eat a half cup of ice cream and stop. So, that might be a bad instance where you might try to program in, a half cup of ice cream, because that half cup turns into a pint before you know it.
Just a little scoop more.
Yeah. So you do have to be careful whenever you are trying to fit in people's preferences. But you can get away from it and then, maybe incorporate that once a week or something. Yeah. But you don't have to entirely, step away from the food you love.
Yeah.
There's definitely a way to manage that. And since we're on that subject, I have people ask me, oh, so you're like, if it fits your macros, so I can just eat Pop-Tarts and stuff all day. No, that's not the case either. I'll put on there, I recommend X amount of servings of vegetables per day or fruits.
Yeah.
And I'll set them a fiber goal where you have to hit, X amount of fibers per day. And then, if you have any carbs remaining or calories remaining at the end of the day, okay, if you want to, mix in, a little bit of that ice cream or something, sure, mix it in. But, you're not going to meet this vegetables and fruits and fiber goal eating Pop-Tarts and Rice Krispies. So it ends up being like, the higher your calories are, the quicker you hit those goals, and then the more room you do have to kind of fill in some, I guess, dirty food if you want to call it that. And the lower the calories, the more I highly recommend that people stick to entirely meats, vegetables, high fibers foods, and stuff that's going to keep people full longer.
One thing that I appreciated when you set me up, you gave me a part of your process is you give a sample day for your meals for the macros that you suggest.
Yeah.
And the cool thing that I loved is I could go to Walmart and get everything on that list.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people's plans, or you look online like, hey, you get one of those cookie cutter diets. It's like, go to Whole Foods and spend $1,000 on something you're not gonna like. And I mean, that's an extreme example, but that was one thing that I was worried about originally, because like organic this or that, and do people a lot, and I'm sure you get this question all the time, but when people come up and talk about fad diets, hey, what about paleo, or what about Whole30? How do you navigate that field?
Yeah. So the first thing I ask is, I'll ask them first off, why have you chosen this diet in particular? What about it is drawing you towards it or whatever? And 90% of the time it's, well, my friend did this. That seems to be the most common answer for it. It isn't because I like the foods options that this thing has or that it offers. It's not that I like the amount of money I'm gonna have to spend on it or anything. It's, oh, my friend did this and she swears by it or this and that.
And they're only gonna tell you the good part about it.
Yeah. And so I try to stay up front with people. You mentioned paleo and the Whole30. I think those are great diets for getting people on track for learning to love whole foods again. I'm not a big fan of entirely eliminating certain food groups or whatnot, even for just 30 days. Most of the people that I've ever met never make it 30 days on the Whole30.
Right.
Most of them make it a week or two, and usually it's not just like hey, I've gone from Whole30 to now I'm just eating like kind of lenient paleo. It's like I just had a catastrophic binge after avoiding these foods for 2 weeks or a month or whatever.
I have a donut coma right now.
Yeah. So I always give them my peace of mind as far as, because I'm a big moderation guy. I mentioned earlier my background with bodybuilding, and I spent a long time with being extreme with my nutrition. And I have found a very happy place in my life right now with moderation, and I found a balance. And
that's awesome.
My balance might not be the same balance as yours, though.
Right.
It just all kind of depends on where you are physically and what your diet history is and what your body composition history is and whatnot. I've got a pretty favorable one, so my balance can be a little bit more lenient than some people's. But my goal is to help them find what their balance is without having to go absolutely crazy in their head with food.
You want them to succeed. You set them up for. You don't want.
That's the goal. Yeah. And it is hit and miss. I mean, sometimes what you set people up with, it doesn't end up working out as planned. But something I've seen happen that, and I'm not speaking for this just for my business, but for all trainers out there, is when you've got clients that are program hopping or coach hopping or something. You hire a coach. And develop a relationship with them. Let them figure out, even if the first month isn't a huge success, that doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing or that you're necessarily doing anything wrong. You just need time to work together and figure out what the best path will be. If you're constantly bouncing around from coach to coach, trainer to trainer or whatnot, you're always going to be starting that cycle over and over again. And sometimes somebody does get it right on the first try, but sometimes they don't. And you'll see that not with just the nutrition side, you'll see that with performance stuff. I mean, you see coaches that take on a team for their first year and the team is awful. They have a horrible record, but that doesn't mean that's the coach's fault. They've got to develop their strategy. They've got to develop his team. He's got to develop this relationship and whatnot. So, everything, you need to give time to everything.
Well, that's one thing that I've appreciated about working with you is because I think how many times have I texted you just like, Dylan, I'm about to go on vacation and I feel like I'm gonna, go crazy, and you just like, hey, just like, that's one thing I appreciate. You're just like, moderation, man. Like, don't deprive yourself.
Yeah, don't pack a cooler full of Tupperware and measure out all your food for a family vacation. Go there, be sensible. I just had a client just get back from New Orleans. I've never been to New Orleans, but from my understanding, that is a hard place to go and not have a good time and not enjoy the foods and the drinks and whatnot. She came back several pounds heavier, and she was panicking until she actually asked me, don't be mad, don't be disappointed. And I was like, I'm not. You enjoyed yourself. You had a good time. Let's get back on track. Let's get back on the bandwagon here.
And you brought up something interesting, because I've had those feelings too, where I'm like, I'm going to put my weight in my spreadsheet and Dylan's going to see that and he's just going to be mad at me or disappointed. But that's part of my disease or mentality that I've had my life is I don't want someone to be mad at me or disappointed. And then tie food into that too. But I know a lot of people that struggle with weight and have been really overweight over time. That's something that they do really worry about. And have you what do you usually tell people that like, hey, don't be mad? Like what really is your thought process at that point when someone comes back?
My entire thought process is, hey, we all fall off. I've fallen off. Brittany's fallen off. We've all fallen off. But you just got to get back on is all it is. Get back on track. I try to keep them motivated and happy. I tell people, you're not in the middle of a prep where you have to be up in your skimpies on a stage in 16 weeks. In that case, I will be a little bit harder on somebody because we have a deadline that is not only a deadline, that's just a hard number, but you're going to get up there and get embarrassed.
Right. And
then that embarrassment will, that shines back down on me a little bit.
Yeah, because you're the coach.
Yeah. So in that situation, I'll step in as more of a coach and not necessarily a friend, counselor type guy. I'll step in as a coach and I'll scold a little bit. But I tell them, I'm like, you're not getting paid to be on the cover of a magazine. Yeah. You're not being paid for your body composition and this and that.
I think I have that exact text from you somewhere in my phone.
Probably. I've sent it several times. It's not putting food on your table to walk around with washboard abs. So, don't be disappointed if you've fallen off and lived a little bit. I don't want to say it like that, like you're depriving yourself whenever you're not living a little bit.
Right.
But don't let it derail you. Same thing with training. People go on a vacation for a week and they don't hit the gym for a week. They don't stop going to the gym when they get back.
Yeah.
They get right back at it. So same thing with nutrition. You get off for a week, get back on it when you get back. Just don't make it all the time is the thing, or try not to.
Yeah. Well, and I'll be honest, right now these last 3 weeks have been hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and we talked about competitions and stuff too. Like I did HOA and I really focused on, I had a goal. I wanted to be 100 pounds lost, and I haven't gotten there yet, but I wanted to do it right before HOA. And so every time I was tempted, I was like, HOA, got to get that goal. HOA. And HOA came and gone, and I was 5 pounds away. Mm-hmm. It sucked. But then my brain, I was just like, well, shoot. And so now that little trigger that I had to tell me, no, don't put that ketchup on there, or don't eat that thing off the desk, and don't have that drink. It's not there in the back of my head. So I'm personally focused or trying to refocus and find that thing that's helping me. And do you see that a lot in people where they can kind of fall off for a little bit?
Yeah. Oh, I see it all the time. I mentioned my client that went to New Orleans. I have a client that went to Vegas not too long ago, and she had dropped almost 20 pounds right before that, and since then has stayed, it's been about a month now, and has stayed about the same weight because, she'd got off for about a week, and now she's in a little bit of a struggle of finding that consistent, the consistency with her dieting again. Again, she's busting her butt in the gym. It's just getting back on track with the dieting portion, and that's the biggest struggle for everybody. And it's just a portion thing. It's not that she has a restriction on any foods or whatnot. It's just they had the taste of it, and so
I'll have a little bit here, a little bit more.
And again, everybody's so different. I've got people that can fall off for a single meal and they're right back at it for 6 months without a single issue.
Yeah.
And I've got people that fall off once a week or something. I got people that are almost daily.
Yeah. I'm weekendly.
Yeah, and man, that's a real popular one. If you look at the I could pull up my spreadsheet and make a graph for every single person that's in it. And if I was to map out like 3 months of their weight tracker, it would be a consistent, like every Friday through Sunday, you'll see a spike. Then it comes back down for a little bit and then a spike. But what that ends up turning into for a lot of people is those weekends end up being so bad that they end up just starting right back where they left off, and it becomes a vicious cycle.
That's me. And like I'll hit back up, and then I might get a pound lower by Friday or Thursday.
Yeah.
And then I'll get that. So when I could be losing 2 to 3 pounds a week, I'm losing just a pound. And right now I'm not losing any.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I've made multiple posts on social media about how cheat meals aren't all they're cracked out to be.
Yeah.
Or even refeeding in most cases, that you can erase a week's worth of progress in a single meal.
Yeah.
For some people. I mean, it all depends on the person again. But if I'm working with a sort of a smaller framed female or something, yeah, her needs are already not that high to begin with, that by the time she's created much of a deficit to make, you know, that progress and fat loss that she's seeking, she can erase that in a single night out with friends. And then it starts over and over again. And if I'm working with a big 220 pound lean machine, no, a meal's not going to hurt him. But that's the difference between person to person, men to women, body composition. You got a 20%er with a 8%er. The things you can get away with are entirely different. So if, when you're comparing yourself to so-and-so, I got friends that follow Joe Donnelly on Facebook. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No, I haven't.
He's a big, just like men's fitness, muscle and fitness magazine type of guy, big cover model, freaking ox. I mean, he's a stud.
Yeah.
But he talks a lot about building metabolic capacity and how he can eat. I think he made a post the other day eating like 7,000 calories, and he's ripped to shreds, and
Wow.
he's just a freak. And then I have friends that message me and they'll say, "Hey man, Joe Donnelly's eating 7,000 calories and he's freaking shredded, man. Why am I only eating 2,200 calories and not losing any weight and this and that? Maybe I just need to eat a whole lot more and whatnot." And I'm like, no, that's probably not the case. And he is a freak of nature to begin with.
Yeah, genetics.
Yeah. He played Division I football. He played a small stint in the NFL. He's 6 foot, I don't know, 3 or 4. I mean,
he's got some
he's just
size.
a freak, and he's never had an issue. He posted a picture of him when he was like 16 or something, and he was stacked at 16. And so now you've got people trying to mimic his ways, and he trains with a super high volume.
Yeah.
And I think all that's great if you can handle it. If you can handle that amount of calories and that amount of volume, yeah, it's great. But I got average Joes coming to me asking, why they aren't getting anywhere, being able to do what he's doing or whatnot. And, the answer is most people aren't going to be, primed to pull off that sort of feat, training or nutritionally.
Wow. Now, can we talk a little bit about, you got sick a while ago.
Yeah.
What? And I remember seeing on social media, because like the CrossFit community really rallied.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic.
And I didn't really know you then, but I remember pulling up pictures, and I'm like, oh man, that really sucks. And then I just moved on. Sorry. And then, but then when I started working with you, I was like, that was the guy.
That was me. Yeah.
That was Dylan. So like, what happened?
So right about the end of December, early January, I had found signs of blood in my stools whenever I went to the bathroom. And at first I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, oh, I'm a weight trainer.
Too much fiber.
Yeah, maybe some hemorrhoids or something.
Yeah.
I just deadlifted, the day before, whatever. So I didn't think anything of it for, a couple weeks. And then, it kind of lingered around, and it actually picked up just a little bit. So I was like, all right, maybe I should just, go to the doctor and see what's up. Mm-hmm. And so I go to my doctor, and she refers me to a colorectal surgeon, and he does a basic rectum exam, and he says, yeah, you got swollen hemorrhoids. It's like, oh, okay, that's kind of what I figured.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, so you want to clamp those off? And I said, no, the open's right around the corner. I don't need to take a couple weeks off. That was my biggest mistake right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So in my mind, because I had people talking me up, hey man, you got a good chance to put up some really good numbers in the open and whatnot. And so I was like,
you might go to regionals.
I mean, yeah, people were saying that, and I was like, okay, well, I'll give this a shot. I'd only been CrossFit for a couple months at the time, so I said, no matter how I do, it'll be cool just to see where
you stack
where
up.
I stand. Yeah. And so that first week I get done, and I think I finished like 88th or 89th in the first workout. And so I was like, hey, that's not too bad for whatever. So it kind of get that. If I would have finished really bad in that first workout, it might have been easy to walk away. But I finished really strong, and so it was really hard to walk away from the open, despite each week getting sicker and sicker. I was starting to lose pounds per week easily.
Wow.
While trying to keep it on. I was getting dehydrated. I was losing more blood. And so if you were to actually go in there and like graph my scores from each week, they just went lower and lower and lower. And it was just consistent, but I didn't know I was sick.
Were you repeating workouts too?
Yeah, I was repeating several of them. And it was just awful. But again, in my head, it was just hemorrhoids. But maybe I'm just losing so much blood that I'm not, I don't have enough hemoglobin or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was filling my head with
justifying it.
Yeah, I was filling my head with all kinds of stuff. And it's kind of funny. At the same time, I was participating in a study at MSU that another student was putting on, where we were doing Wingate sprints. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's absolute hell on a bike is what it is. Just 30 seconds, but it's brutal.
Full out effort for 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's gross, man. But we were doing 2 Wingate sprints a week, and we were snorting powders of various substances, trying to, and one of them was ammonia cap, to see if there was a performance, improvement on our peak power or anything.
Okay.
And it was funny. I went for 3 weeks, I think, something like that. And this was in the middle of the open, and I was getting sicker and sicker, remind you. And so he told me about it. I was like, okay. So after it was all done, I said, all right, so which one of them was the ammonia and which one was my best power and everything? And he plotted it all out, and he told me, he said, well, the very final sprint is the one where you actually drew the ammonia caps. I was like, sweet. So was that like my best, did I see improvements with it? He said, no, that was your worst. I was like, so my worst was with what's supposed to help me. He was like, yeah. And I was like, well, how'd the rest of them pan out? And he was like, they all got worse every single time.
So you have all this data.
So I mean, I can looking back, I'm like, yeah, man, I was just getting worse and worse as time goes on. So anyways, the open goes on, and we do 14.5,
was that the muscle up?
Yeah, no, that was the thrusters, bar facing burpees.
Oh,
like 100 reps.
It wasn't a time cap. You just go. Yeah. That was terrible. It's like Fran on drugs.
Yeah, it was awful. And so I was doing it, and you can ask, some of the other athletes that were there. 2 of them were doctors, and I remember them watching me thinking, we might need to step in and stop him because he looks awful. Like he's getting green and gray in the face.
Wow.
But I was basically army crawling my burpees because I was determined. I was like, man, I got to do good, because as a shot as an individual wasn't there anymore, but we still had a pretty good shot as a team. So I was still trying to put up good numbers. And at the end of it, I was throwing my guts up, but we were all laughing about it because, again, we didn't know how sick I was.
CrossFit's mascot is Pukey.
Yeah, Pukey the Clown, baby. Well, I puked my guts up, and they went and got an ice bag, put it on my back, and so that was, to this day, the most awful workout I've ever done. I know it was probably a bad workout to begin with, but it was really bad being dehydrated, low on blood and whatnot.
Have you repeated it yet?
No. I did do a piece of it last week. I just did 21:15.9 though.
Okay.
Still bad.
Yeah.
So anyways, that next week I was still trying to get back into training, and every time I touched a barbell, anytime I did anything, just shortness of breath immediately. I felt awful and weak. So I went back to my surgeon and I said, all right, doc, I think there's something more than just hemorrhoids. And he was like, let's just clamp those off and see if things improve. And I was like, no, I legitimately think that there's more going on.
Yeah, here's the data.
Yeah, and he said, all right, well, you're 23, 24 at the time. He said, well, it's kind of young, but let's check it out. And I said, yes, thank you. So we scheduled it and got in there, and he comes out and he's like, yeah, the entire left side, the ascending colon was just diseased.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess it'd be the other way, but anyway, that's not important. But he's like, yeah, you've got what appears to be clearly ulcerative colitis. He's like, it's an autoimmune disease, blah, blah, blah. Starts going on about it. And I didn't think too much about it at the time. And so he did a biopsy and sent it off and comes back. It's like, yeah, definitely. So the colonoscopy itself exacerbated everything. Just putting instruments in there, fiddling around, taking a biopsy.
Just made it.
Yeah, it just struck it off. The pain got really bad. I ended up getting to the point where I was just absolutely immobile. Thankfully, you know, I was engaged to a nurse, and my mom's a nurse, so they were able to take real good care of me.
You were engaged to Brittany at that time.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know that. Okay.
We had gotten engaged the December before that. So my mom actually came up with like fluids and morphine, and she actually hooked me up in my apartment on the couch and then in my bed because I couldn't go anywhere and we couldn't get admitted at the hospital. We tried multiple times.
Why wouldn't they admit you?
Well, my all the vitals were still fine. I think that was partially just from being in such good shape before. And they didn't have a very long track record of me, or they had never seen me much at my normal body weight and whatnot. So to them on the outside, you know, things were fine.
You're
and
healthy. And
yeah. And so they're like, oh, he's not bad enough to need to be admitted or whatnot.
But you were on this fast track. You were just
yeah, it was going down bad. I mean, I dropped from 205 to like 147, I think was my lowest.
Holy crap.
In, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. It was quick.
Wow.
It's not the way I advise weight loss by any means.
Shoot. I mean, some of the pictures I saw when they were starting to fundraise and do competitions and stuff for you, I just remember like seeing the two. It's amazing.
Yeah, you know, I will say it's been a fun process getting back into it.
Yeah.
And kind of getting to do the whole newbie thing again. That was fun to see quick results. I've gotten to the point now where things are stable and back, you know, they're pretty much settling back in, and, you know, progress is slow again, but you know, this year getting back into it, it's been fun because there for a while it's like new PR every week.
Look at all these gains.
Yeah, this is awesome. But I've kind of reached, you know, back to my, you know, my normal place. But yeah, back to the, you know, I fortunately I was at the CrossFit box I was at. There was a couple good friend doctors that were there, and they were able to pull some strings for me and help get me admitted.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they did. And when they went in there and they checked out my colon again and everything, and they were, you know, they immediately started treatment. So I ended up being in the hospital for a couple weeks at the time.
Okay. And with surgery and everything, or is that
not
before?
just not yet. I hadn't. We were trying all kinds of the medications, the prednisone, Humira. We tried
doing everything possible beforehand.
Yeah. Nothing was even slowing it down. I mean, it just kept progressing. And so we spoke with a couple other hospitals and their specialists, and they all kind of agreed, you know, surgery's the route to go.
Okay.
So we discussed it. You know, at the time, that was all I wanted to do, was whatever it was going to take.
Yeah, let's just get this done.
Yeah, and so we did.
Well, you're
we
a
went in.
healthy, fit guy that was working in that industry, and all of a sudden you're bedridden.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, at that time I thought I was doing everything I could to not be sick in any way.
Right.
And, you know, I asked the doctors multiple times, you know, is there anything I could have done to prevent it? And they all unanimously say no. You know, it's a very genetic thing. My grandma has it.
Okay.
Nothing severe like mine, but, you know, she had one good flare-up in her 20s, but has been able to take medication ever since to handle it.
Is this something you'll have to be conscious about the rest of your life now? Or
No.
Okay.
Because it was just the colon, it wasn't Crohn's.
Okay.
You know, Crohn's would be from mouth to anus, the entire digestive tract. Mine was just in the colon, and the colon's gone, so therefore the disease is gone.
There you go.
Yeah. So, you know, looking back, I'm really glad that I think the colectomy was the best option because I don't have to worry about medications. I don't have to worry about flare-ups. You know, I can eat the diet I want.
That's cool.
It was just, you know, a process to get to where I am now. But, you know, I don't regret the option of our choice of doing the surgery. And we were able to fortunately, you know, move away from the ileostomy bag that I had for several months. You know, even if I had to live with that, it beats the heck out of, you know, where I was.
One of the things that stuck out to me that I knew that I had a lot of respect for you is you did a post on social media about how people are like, man, you're hitting all these numbers again. You're going above and beyond what you were doing before. Like what changed? And I remember, and you could fill in the blanks, but you said, I know what real pain feels like now.
Yeah.
And when you're in there going to work, you're able to go to that dark place or
yeah, it definitely helps with the Metcons. You know, the mental toughness I had to kind of learn through this entire last year has definitely helped with what real pain is and what's not, and how much of it's in my head, what's not. So it definitely helps with the conditioning workouts. You know, I've had people ask about my strength numbers with my Olympic lifts and all that, and why is that getting so much better? But I just attribute that entirely to I've had longer to practice it. It wasn't that strength was ever the issue; it was always a skill thing. Yeah. So I just attribute that entirely to more time, under the bar.
Under the bar.
Yeah.
And that I remember that in that post too, where you were just like, I just started doing the snatch and clean and jerk with technique.
When I got sick, yeah. So I don't think that has much to do with anything else other than just I've done more reps, and that's what it takes for all of that is just repetition.
Getting after it.
Yeah. The more times you expose yourself to it, the more likely you are to accomplish that task. I mean, I look at it as a baseball player. Everything was skill oriented. So the more swings we could get and the more repetitions we could get, the better we could dial that in. Same thing with throwing, same thing with catching a ball.
Yeah.
And with CrossFit, a great deal of it is so skill oriented that, don't put yourself in the trenches every day with a tough Metcon, but do work on the skills and the barbell work and the gymnastics and get the repetition in, and expose yourself to those motor patterns.
Yeah.
Just don't get carried away with feeling like you have to trash yourself every day. And that seems to be a constant that I come across when I do consult with the CrossFitters.
And that's kind of with learning from time too. I've been in that world 2.5 years now, almost 3 years. And a lot of people, I don't know, I'm like, Joe at my gym calls me like the mayor of CrossFit, because anyone new comes in, I'm like, welcome to CrossFit. I'm like, and so a lot of people come to me and talk to me, and because they see that someone had come as far as I have, and I'm in here going to town, and I still can't do a lot of things because I'm just, anything that I learn that's really, I do it wrong, and I have to really learn how to do it right and take the time and break it down. And so, but a lot of people, there's one new person, he's like, oh, today's my 6th day this week. I'm getting after it. And I'm just like, you need to take 2 days off, maybe 3, because you're going to hurt your shoulder or you're going to hurt something, because
something's going to give eventually.
Yeah.
It might not be a week. It might not be, 3 months. I mean, everybody's breaking point is different.
Yeah.
But we can't sit here and pretend that there's not a breaking point.
You can't be Rich Froning.
We can't be Rich Froning. And, I don't know that anybody knows a whole lot about his training since we're on the subject. But if I had to guess, he trains with a really high volume. But if I had to guess, he probably stays at a lower intensity, though. And when I say intensity, I'm referring to a percentage of his one rep max. That he's probably working around 60 to 70% of his max most of the time in these workouts, or he's just dealing with bodyweight gymnastics movements. So he can handle that volume, and he's probably, and again, he's had to work himself up to that volume. And if you can lay off of the high intensity, high percentages of your one rep maxes, you can train with a little bit higher volume more often, assuming you've worked yourself up to it. But you have to look at it this way. You say, okay, well, I'll just do gymnastic stuff. Okay. Well, for some people, 5 pull-ups is a high intensity thing.
I'm raising my hand.
Yeah. That's, or a muscle up. And so that is still the equivalent of doing a high percentage
one rep max
barbell, squat or clean or something. So with him, again, he can go through his gymnastics work pretty often too, because, that's not a tough thing for him as well. So it all has to be relevant to you. I can't imagine that he trains with a high percentage of, his max very often.
That's cool to think about. I've never approached that way, because you see like the videos or whatever, he's moving through 185 like it's nothing, but compared to his percentages, 185 is probably 60% of his one rep max.
Yeah, you've got to keep that into perspective, that grace to him is a warm up.
Yeah.
Grace to other people, that's
your workout.
Cook you for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep that in mind when you're looking at the amount of volume he's training with, that it's not going, as long as he keeps that intensity down, it's probably not smoking him near as bad as it does the average gym goer.
Right.
So for them to try to replicate that is, not advisable by any means.
No. Yeah, not very many people could keep up that
No.
that exercise.
Even the elite still probably can't maintain that training volume.
Well, I asked a few people on social media if there's any questions. Let me see if anybody asked anything, and then we'll let you do some homework, man. So, what you're getting your what kind of degree are you?
Yeah, so I'm working on my master's right now in health, performance, and recreation at Pittsburgh State University in Kansas. I did my undergrad at Missouri State in exercise and movement science, but I've always wanted to go a little above and beyond. That's just kind of my mentality. So people have asked me multiple times, "Hey man, why are you getting your master's? You don't really need it to continue doing what you're doing." And it's like, part of it's personal achievement. One is, and another thing is, I am always wanting to learn a little bit more. But I wouldn't mind to, maybe teach part-time at one of the local universities or
That'd be cool.
or something like that. Yeah. I don't know that I want to do that full-time, but I could definitely see that being something I wouldn't mind to do, a little bit on the side.
Do like a night class or something. Or
Yeah,
in the middle
just,
of the day.
Something like that. Yeah. Just, nitpick here and there. I love fitness and I love trying to teach people and help people. So, doing that at the university level would be amazing.
That'd be
well.
awesome. I mean, you're right there you're in the front lines when you're there.
Yeah. I can help show those people at an earlier age some of the mistakes that I made or that I had to learn from later on, that
Right.
Maybe I can steer them away from that before they even get out of school.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we got a couple people that commented, but Crystal, a longtime person, Crystal Lander, she asked, I'd like to know more about maintaining goal weight. And I kind of went over that a little bit, but
Yeah, so the maintenance of a goal weight. So let's say that, as a guy, you start out at 225 pounds and your goal weight's 180 pounds. Let's say that over time you have, slowly worked your way down to that, 1 to 2 pounds a week. And you've gotten down to this goal weight, but, you're doing, an hour of cardio a day. Let's assume it had to get to that point maybe.
yeah.
Ideally that's not what we want to do, but sometimes that happens. And calories, maybe they had to get down to 1,800 or 2,000 or something.
Yeah. They had to get a big push to get to that last.
Yeah, it can be tough there at the end. And so you get there, and there is mixed opinions on this, because when you diet down, a lot of important hormones downregulate along the way. And then also, this is basic math, but the smaller you are, the less calories you need.
Yeah.
And so you do, people are like, oh, don't let your metabolism crash whenever you're dieting down. And it's like, well, the metabolism is going to slow down as you diet down, just basically because if you're going to try to estimate somebody's caloric needs just for maintenance, the number one factor in that is body weight. That's all it is. Yeah. That's the main thing, the main driver of your resting metabolic rate. So if you've dropped 50 pounds, your resting metabolic rate is probably going to go down to some extent. So anyways, you slowly work down. And then so the mixed opinions that I was talking about is some people are in the thought that you'll need to reverse diet out, if you've ever heard the term reverse dieting.
No, that's a new one to me.
Yeah, so the idea there is whenever you've been dieting for so long, you've reached, you've had that metabolism slow down or whatnot. If you go back to eating a lot more calories, you have rapid weight regain. And you see this a lot with crash diets and stuff like that, where people lose 60 pounds, and then over the next year or two, they put on 75 pounds. But I don't know that I so much attribute all of that to, this person crashed their metabolism or whatnot. Most of the time, that is just entirely going back to bad habits.
Yeah, it's just right back into what they were doing.
Yeah, a lot of times it's not necessarily that they ruin their metabolism or their endocrine system or anything. But I'm sure there is some amount of insulin resistance that develops or something along the way. But I mean, all of that is on the super extreme end, and
Right.
honestly not something you can apply to everybody. So keeping it simple. So you get there, and the reverse dieting thing is, you slowly increase your calories and or slowly decrease the amount of like cardiovascular work you're doing. That way you can, in a controlling manner, work your way back up to what would be a more ideal body weight and caloric intake and whatnot. The issue, something you have to keep telling people is, let's say that we dieted somebody down to 180 pounds, and then you start introducing them to more carbs and something like that, and they start to panic when they see a few pounds come back. And they just automatically assume that, hey, that's fat.
Yeah.
But it's not. You're probably pretty glycogen depleted at this time to some extent. That by reintroducing these carbs, you're just holding on to more. You got more glycogen storage, and with glycogen comes water. So you got all these factors that are causing the scale to go up that aren't necessarily fat.
Yeah.
So that's when doing tape measurements or keeping pictures of yourself or something comes really handy. But yeah, so you just slowly increase your calories up, decrease the activity a little bit, and try to find where that tipping point is. After you've kind of gotten past the first couple of weeks of getting back into it, you will see about where that glycogen, tipping point is.
Okay.
And then get back to only trying to either stay the same weight, or if you're trying to now add muscle mass, because if we're talking with athletes, there technically really isn't ever a maintenance if you think about it. They get to this, so now they've gotten to this weight and it's like, okay, I want to build some muscle. When we look at building muscle, that should be a very slow process, much slower than a lot of people like to think.
Yeah, I hear people like 5 pounds of muscle over a long.
Yeah, it's like, hey man, I gained 3 pounds of muscle this week, and I'm always like, no, you didn't. Sorry. Maybe a quarter pound.
Yeah.
If that, I mean, that's me being nice.
Yeah.
Because realistically, and they've talked about this multiple times, that for we're talking non-performance enhanced athletes. In most circumstances, if you're not coming off of a long layoff or injury, you're not a newbie or something, then you're only looking at like 3 to 5 pounds of muscle a year, and that's for a guy. A girl being 2 to 3 pounds a year maybe.
Yeah.
Now there's and
there's those freaking natures out there.
Yeah, that's just a ballpark. I'm sure the numbers are all over the place, but
it's an average.
So if you're gonna try to gain weight, keep that number, for a guy, a half pound a week, maybe gaining. Females, quarter of a pound a week or something, or a half pound every 2 weeks. But for maintenance, eat as much, keep the protein high. We continue to see more and more evidence that protein is something that's pretty hard to turn over to fat. I don't know, there's some weaknesses to those studies, but keep the protein high, try to keep your carbs high, as high as you can, especially if performance is your goal.
You mean carbs aren't the devil?
Carbs are not the devil, and neither are bananas.
Yeah.
Maintenance. I'm trying to think of how the best way to put it. It's just patience.
Yeah. Just find
everybody has if you've ever heard of the set point theory, everybody kind of has this body weight set point that their body gets happy at.
Yeah.
So if you want, let's say that you get to 180 pounds and you want that to be your weight, you need to try to maintain that for a while before you try to deviate too far from it.
Yeah.
Because you probably noticed multiple times, if you get to a weight, you can go back and forth plus or minus 3 to 5 pounds without effort.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's how my dad is. He just
and a lot of that's just not necessarily even a set point, but just lifestyle in general. Again, the set point thing, it is a theory, but it seems to be pretty applicable to most people. So you need to spend a great amount of time at a certain weight to kind of get accustomed to what that's supposed to feel like.
You're just new. Your body's new. So
you just got to kind of settle in there. patient. You can't. Everybody's always in a hurry to get, to be able to, I'm gonna go back to Joe Donnelly. Everybody's in a hurry to be able to eat 7,000 calories and stay the same weight, but it's not gonna happen. We like to eat, so we like to think that we can. Everything we eat is gonna be burned and turned to freak of nature muscle.
Right.
That's just not the case for us mortals.
Yeah. Well, Dylan, thanks. One thing I do with everyone on the show that either has lost weight or done it like any, because usually I interview people in the fitness world. What are the, just kind of quick, what are the top three? I know it's a real broad question, but if someone said, hey, what are your top three things that for someone either just fitness wise, not necessarily losing weight or gaining muscle, just what would you say if there was three things that were super important?
Okay, so one big one that I like to tell people is to run their own race and stay in their lane. I see it way too often where people, are peeking over into everybody else's lanes and saying, I'm not as good as this person, or I'm smoking this person, so then they can look cocky about it, or they're too busy worried about how everybody else is progressing and not enough about theirs. So, the first tip is just stay in your lane, run your race. Maybe you aren't going to gain as much muscle as fast as your friend, or maybe you're not going to lose as much fat as fast as your friend. So what? We're all different. Stay in your lane, run your race. Find good training partners and good mentors. That was a huge one for me. I spent a lot of time training by myself, and I forgot the benefit of having somebody to push you, and also the benefit of having somebody else to critique you or to give you advice or whatnot. And so that's something that I have rediscovered throughout the years. I always have a good training partner and mentors, and then also, never, as I'm going to put this out there for the educators, trainers, and coaches out there, but, never be afraid to admit you're ever wrong, or to change your ways or whatnot, because you'll discover that a lot with, in the fitness world, that things are constantly changing.
Yeah.
Fitness and nutrition, what's good, what's bad, what's best, what's worst. It changes all the time, and don't get stuck in your old ways. Be willing to admit that okay, maybe that wasn't the right way to do things or the brightest way. Admit you're wrong, move on, learn from it, because if you stay in your old way, you stick to the old ways, you're usually left behind. That's cool. I haven't been around that long, but I've learned quite a bit so far.
Well, man, thank you so much. If people want to follow you on social media, how do they find you? And I'll put it in the notes too.
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook. I don't mind people finding me on my personal page, which is just facebook.com/jdharris07. You can find my Facebook page, Fit Status Personal Training LLC. I have an Instagram, Fit Status PT, and a Twitter as well. And if you want everyone to just reach out to me personally, you can contact me, on any of those social media sites, but you can also send an email to fitstatus@gmail.com.
And he's really good about getting back to you, and you definitely won't go wrong hitting Dylan. I mean, that's one thing that even on your flyer with your rates and stuff, you're like 24/7, text me, let me know, And so there's been several times I've reached out to you.
I do my best, man. I try to be there when anybody needs me.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And this has been the Unbroken Podcast with Chris Crosby. And remember to live unbroken. Thanks, Dylan.